Good afternoon and welcome to this episode of Head Talk with myself, Ruth Benny, and it's November 2020 and I am delighted to have with us a new principal in town. May I invite Mr. Wayne Maher, secondary principal of Malvern College, Hong Kong. Good afternoon, Wayne.
Good afternoon, Ruth.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for joining us. So you've recently joined Malvern College in Hong Kong, and just if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've come to Malvern College, Hong Kong.
Yeah, so I've just arrived in the summer here in Hong Kong, and that's followed a stint of kind of 17 years of international teaching. So take right back to the start, my wife and I, having taught in the UK for a few years, thought we'd dip our toes in international teaching and try out something for a few years. We moved to Dubai. We were part of the setup of a brand new school, and that couple of years experiment turned into 4 years in Dubai. And because we enjoyed the experience in international education and certainly the opportunities that it gave us, we stayed on and we moved to China, where I joined Dulwich College in Suzhou, and again, not a brand new school, but a new and developing school. And I was part of the senior school there and became part of the management team that oversaw the move into a brand new secondary school, purpose-built campus, which was challenging, demanding it in its times. But then, because we kind of really enjoyed our experiences there and with the setup and going through processes, working with things like the IB Diploma, the opportunity came up to join Malvern College, and this time rather than in Asia, it was in Egypt. So actually I joined the Malvern family of schools nearly 5 years ago, when myself, my wife and my two boys moved to Cairo, where we were part of the founding team. So we arrived at Egypt about 6-7 months before the school opened. We saw through the project there from its absolute infancy through to last academic year, seeing its first graduating students completing the A-levels, as it was there, and also taking them through the authorization for IB Diploma. But the draw of Asia has certainly been strong throughout that time, and I found myself and my wife as well, and even our boys, one of which was born in China, looking for opportunities back in Asia. And the opportunity to stay within the Malvern Group came up, and I accepted the position here in Malvern College, Hong Kong, as the head of secondary school.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. So new to Malvern College, Hong Kong, but not new to Malvern. So may I ask, how old are your boys?
I have two boys. So my youngest is 9 years old, so in P5 in the primary, and my oldest boy's just joined me in secondary school. He's 12 years old.
So tell us a little bit about your role at Malvern College, Hong Kong. So you're overseeing the secondary, which is not entirely fully matured, should we say, because the school only opened, is this its third year now? Yes,
we're currently in the third academic year. So yeah, the school's in its infancy, let's say. It's completed 2 full academic years. But our oldest year group, we're using terminology that we've inherited from Malvern, so that we call them 100. In a British curriculum, they would describe it as year 11 is our oldest year group. But next academic year, we will introduce the 6th form. So my role is overseeing the years for secondary school, so equivalent of year 7 and above, with a growing number of staff. So it's a small senior section to the school. The bulk of the numbers within the school are certainly within the prep and even within the pre schools that the Malvern have here in Hong Kong. But from what we call foundation year 1 through to 100, I'm overseeing those year groups. And part of the focus for this year for myself is also overseeing the preparations for next academic year in the 6th form, and our application to become a diploma school as part of our ongoing development of being an IBO world school.
Yeah, so thank you. So you mentioned that actually Malvern College in Egypt does do A-levels, and of course Malvern in the UK does both A-levels and IB, but the school here in Hong Kong is not offering the choice. It's only an IB school. So can you talk us through a little bit about that? And particularly you have the Year 11 children this year. They will not be doing the IGCSE, is that right?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. Because we're an IB continuum school, so we follow in the prep it's PYP, the primary years program, and then in the senior it's the middle years program. So we're following the IB continuum all the way through here in Hong Kong. I said it is a little bit different to Egypt. Egypt itself is mirroring a little bit more similar to Malvern College UK in that last year it had the first A-level graduates. This year will also have its first diploma graduates because the school there is set to be a little bit larger than here. So the decision there was taken to offer both A-levels and the diploma running side by side there following the GCSEs. Whereas, yes, here in Hong Kong, we offer the MYP with the full continuum going through to the DP. So our oldest pupils just this week will be having some more introductions to the diploma program, to what that offers to them for their future. I'm starting to make their choices for individual subjects.
I mean, it's very controversial, isn't it, that parents feel that either the question that we get asked so often is my child more suitable for diploma, or should we choose A-levels? I mean, how do you talk to parents, and when is the right time for parents to be considering such choices?
It is a difficult conversation with parents, certainly new parents who have joined the school relatively recently. That's often one of their questions. And I think in terms of the choices for the future, part of my response to the parents is that diploma is often given a bit of an unfair treatment in being seen as quite an elite qualification that only the best of the best can undertake it, and that's something that we're working on to turn around, because the diploma is demanding. It's the pupils have to do 6 subjects as opposed to A-levels where maybe 3 or 4. So it's a broader curriculum with then a core of areas like theory of knowledge, their creativity, activity, service, and doing extended essays. It is demanding on the pupils, but my argument with them is always, if the school has the right setup, the teaching that is in place to make sure that the individual pupils' needs are being met, being tracked and monitored, and you're looking at the potential of individual pupils, then the diploma is not going to prevent the pupils from taking any future steps. I think certainly with schools that offer both A-levels and IB diploma, they have that flexibility to advise the parents to go with one or the other. I don't think that not having the A-levels is a detriment to here in Hong Kong. It just means that our development of the diploma program is going to be a little bit different than the way we had organized it in Egypt, because we knew there quite early on, say with the pupils, they're reaching 13, 14 years old, starting to look at their options, starting to work with them and their parents about their future choices. Here, because we know that we'll be offering the diploma, we start to work with the pupils quite early on about what they need to be working at as they go through their final 2 years of the MYP program, to make sure that they're as set up as they can be for the diploma. I think with any kind of curriculum, any education system, it's not everyone is going to be the right fit for every single thing that a school offers, whether they offer just one curriculum or like Malvern College UK offering 2. There'll be times when the whole fit isn't perfect for individual pupils and their parents, and that's something that we talk with our parents about, to make sure that if the pupils are entering into the diploma program, that they do have that broad range of abilities. They are going to be able to cope with all of the demands that are in place. but that's also the case for pupils looking to study A-levels. The depth that some A-level subjects go into, that is a little bit beyond the individual subjects in the diploma, can also be incredibly demanding on the pupils. So it's making sure that the parents and particularly the pupils have the right information well in advance. It's never too early for them to know, but also making sure that they're not honing in on defining their choices too early on. So as I say, our oldest pupils right now this week are starting the process of really looking at their diploma subjects and how that's going to match with their desires for the future.
Yeah, thank you. I think that from the parents' point of view, they're not concerned that they won't have enough choices. The concern is that they will have to pick too many choices, as it were, as opposed to the A-levels, which is obviously typically perceived to be with a narrower focus and a deeper studied at a deeper level. I mean, what would you say to parents who think, that my child is very, very science heavy, she is only going to focus on maths and sciences, perhaps they're going to study engineering or medicine? Then the common perception among parents is that then A-levels would be maybe not easier, but makes more sense. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think I'd certainly agree with the terminology that sometimes that parents use and their expectations. It is down to perceptions of what the diploma does involve, and sometimes the perception that one curriculum or the other will limit kind of choices at universities and beyond, and that yes, certain pupils, for them, narrowing down their options if they are very, very set on what they want to do in the future, then keeping their options broad, and if, like you say, if they're science, if they're looking to do medicine, where languages and the arts that are all part of the diploma are not necessarily seen as essential parts. But the reality is that diploma pupils get just as many offers to university to study those subjects as A-level pupils, and actually a growing recognition from universities that the overall diploma program, giving the pupils that broader balance, is actually in some ways a benefit to the university in terms of the pupils have a much broader understanding of other areas of subjects, so language, their ability to communicate. The universities, often admissions departments, inform us that the advice to the parents should be that whatever they're going to be choosing to do at university, the university will teach them that subject. Yes, they need to have a good grounding in things like science and maths if they want to go on to do medicine, but actually their broader area of understanding, their ability to understand how they learn best, and whether that is purely within sciences and maths, is something that parents and pupils should be giving consideration to. So my understanding and my opinions is that to narrow choices down and to select, even if a pupil really does have a very specific passion for certain subjects, we know what teenagers are like. Particularly, they can change their mind, and sometimes some of the issues with A-levels can be that pupils hone in too much, make selections, and then halfway through their courses kind of realize that the changes and the differences between what they've been doing previously and the A-level course is quite significant, as you say, that the depth they go into. And sometimes the pupils then struggle, but they've committed to that 2 years, they've committed to just their 3 or 4 subjects, and the diploma allows that bit more flexibility in not honing down quite so much. And I think there's a growing kind of understanding from parents that the last 12 months has shown, I think, that choices of parents, let alone the pupils, change as well. Their expectations of where pupils are going to go to university, either in Europe, the UK, or to America, or staying closer to home, closer to Hong Kong. And both A-levels and IB diploma offer pupils equal opportunities, really. So it's about trying to inform the parents that perceptions of the diploma and not always exactly right, but at the same time also acknowledging that the diploma might not be for everybody. And that's where I say we have the discussions with pupils from quite an early point to look at that. It might be that the diploma isn't for them, and then that would mean, as the size of our school, we can't offer a large number of different curricula, can't offer more than the diploma, really. So there may be opportunities and times when parents and the pupils kind of would consider what alternatives they have. That might be Malvern UK, it might be another Malvern around the world, or it could be another school.
Okay, no, I understand. I mean, it's and parents, I think, often start to worry about this very, very early on. And you're the head of secondary. I have teenagers, and so what we often say to parents is that you can always come back to reconsider this, as you say, when your children are 13, 14, year 7, 8, and primary. No need to worry about all of that, right? I want to ask you a little bit about the notion of a British school. So we see that British schools and British education has just exploded, especially in China and Asia. And so we've covered off, you are a British school, but obviously not doing the British curriculum, as we've just discussed. But how do you translate all of the other elements? I mean, I suppose parents often come with this notion of like a Hogwarts, and you have a shiny new building in Taipo. So how do you manage expectations, and what elements of a traditional boarding school are you able to incorporate, and which elements are you not able to incorporate?
It's interesting, yeah, because a lot of the parents sometimes do come with their misconceptions maybe of what a British school would be like. Certainly I've had conversation with parents where the Harry Potter Hogwarts is what they are thinking and considering, and when they look at schools in the UK like Malvern College and the buildings and the grounds and the history that they have, they sometimes imagine that that's what's being translated here. But as you say, we have an amazing brand new campus here in Taipo, and that gives us opportunities that Malvern UK maybe doesn't have. Yes, we don't have the actual boarding element of the school here, but within the day school environment, we are working on, or have been working on for the last 2 years here at the school before my arrival, on trying to get elements of the boarding, the culture, the ethos of Malvern UK replicated here. Part of that is from things like our the house system. Many schools have a house system. Ours does go some way to replicate the traditions and standards of Malvern UK. Obviously, the house isn't their boarding house, so there are some differences. But a large element of the house system here is revolving around the tutoring and the pastoral care, and it's that element that works alongside whatever curriculum is in place in the school. It's that element that we feel is where the British kind of standards and expectations and what we call Malvern qualities, the traits that we feel that the pupils should be developing alongside their subject knowledge within any of the curriculum that they're studying. So things like honesty, being collaborative, they're very much things that we are emulating from the Malvern UK. They're not exclusively British traits, essentially, because they do link with things like the IB learner profile. Again, being an IB continuum school, that links really well. But trying to use the history and the experiences at Malvern UK is something that we are developing here. I know we had the challenges in Egypt last year. We were only in our 4th academic year there last year, and with all the changes and moving to online learning that occurred, it did impact our plans, but just meant that we had to change. And the fact that we've got Malvern College UK and their experiences there, 150 plus years of experience to fall back on and to utilize, has been a fantastic advantage to us.
Maybe, thank you. Could you explain a little bit about the relationship? Because we have a lot of British schools in Hong Kong, and I know that the relationship between the sort of the mother school, as it were, it varies. So I mean, do you have a lot of contact with Malvern UK, a little, and how exactly does it work?
There's quite a large amount of contact between certain members of Malvern College Hong Kong with Malvern College UK. So the way it works, Malvern College International are actually, it's a little bit of a difference between Malvern and some other schools, is they are actually based at Malvern College in the UK rather than being overseas in the schools, and they help with bridging between the different schools. And as Malvern has grown, like with myself, moving from Egypt to here, other members of staff that have moved from Chengdu to here, or from Egypt to Chengdu, the other Malvern colleges, there is a link between the different campuses. But the link back to Malvern UK is quite genuine. There are regular communication, either from the headmaster to Malvern College UK and Malvern College International. Our headmaster here, actually, Dr. Lister, worked for many years at Malvern College UK as the deputy master there, and then has come out here as part of the founding team. So there are links within the personnel, but on a regular working basis as well. There are communication between the different organisations, the different parts of the family of schools, as we say, but also that Malvern International would regularly come out and visit the school. They undertake what they call a quality assurance process. As we say, Malvern UK have been going for quite some time. They have a wonderful reputation in the UK for academics, for their broader offerings as a school, and they really want that to be replicated around the world. And it's not just about kind of putting the right people within those schools, but making sure they have checks and balances. So they come out regularly to visit the school. They undertake what they call a quality assurance process, which obviously over the last year has changed a little bit, become a little bit more online rather than them visiting each of the schools. But they're there. It's not a checkup on us. It is, they call it quality assurance. And part of that process is for Malvern UK, part of their reason for setting up schools was to learn from international education and take aspects back to Malvern UK. So the dialogue is two-way, and as I say, it is very genuine. There's a lot of kind of communication between the schools, growing because of the personnel that have moved from one school to the other. So between Malvern College Hong Kong and Malvern College Egypt, there'll certainly be a lot more communication over the next 12 months than there has been over the last 12 months.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think I want to move on. I'm conscious of time. I want to move on. I think one area in which Malvern College Hong Kong is different from the UK is the Chinese program. So I know that Malvern College Hong Kong, for the middle years program, you have the 2 streams for Chinese, and I think it's gaining a reputation amongst Hong Kong international schools to be a very strong program. So can you tell us a little bit more about, particularly maybe for children who are transferring in at secondary, and if they have a good foundation in Chinese, how are you able to maintain that leading up to the diploma? And are you going to be offering, say, for example, double language A diploma, or have you not thought that far ahead?
No, we certainly are thinking that far ahead and starting to plan that far ahead, because anytime any pupil applies to us, we need to make sure that we've got the provisions in place to see them through not just one academic year, but into the future. So it might be that plans for next academic year might not be 100% set in stone, but we certainly are considering those. And I think language is not just because we're an IB school all the way through, and that language and communication in particular are key aspects of that, but it's something that Malvern College UK have actually been kind of leaders in language learning for many years. And being an international school, being in a location where we're going to have pupils from many different backgrounds, as you say, they can be transferring from within Hong Kong or within Asia, and have quite significant levels of Chinese, of Mandarin, and at the same time, people like my own son, who's just joined us in the start of secondary school, who hasn't studied any Chinese in 5-6 years, and trying to make sure that they all have access to curriculum in the year groups that they are in. But a focus and a desire is absolutely to be able to offer the bilingual diploma, to be able to have opportunities for pupils, whatever their preferred language is, to make sure that that alongside English and possibly even a third language, even at the diploma, it is possible for pupils to do 3 languages, to have that offered. So this year we do have some pupils studying beyond Chinese and English. Having their first language might not be considered to be one of those. So their preferred language might be Japanese or Spanish or Italian, and looking at that. And that's an area where the diploma really does stand out for its flexibility in terms of the language offerings and what they call school-supported self-taught languages. And that's certainly something that we will most likely have in place for the pupils if it's needed. But for the younger pupils, absolutely, we are looking at how we can accommodate their level of language. It's demanding on a school. Probably the largest department definitely the largest department we've got in the school is the language department, and the Chinese particularly. The number of different levels that they need to be able to accommodate all of the teachers. Their differentiation between one pupil and the next is very strong. But in terms of supporting the pupils really into honing into their current level, we have to invest in that, and having the right Mandarin teachers in place to be able to teach across those levels. And since I've joined, there's certainly been pupils that have moved from what we call language acquisition, so almost learning it as an additional language, into language and literature, into their preferred language. And we do have a number of pupils who are studying too. So they're studying English and Chinese, even from the equivalent of year 7, year 8. They're already in those classes and lessons, and the teachers are also part of the team who are preparing for the diploma. So they're designing their curriculum backwards, thinking about what the requirements would be for the diploma. So absolutely a goal, a desire is to soon hopefully have some pupils graduating with a bilingual diploma.
Okay, good. And they will be in two more
academic
time.
years, before our oldest pupils will graduate.
So did you say that you would offer another taught language within the curriculum, or they would be self-study?
So we're looking at a combination. So we will certainly be expanding on the languages next year, looking at Spanish, maybe certainly within the diploma, maybe within other year groups, as well as the school-supported self-taught preferred language. So let's say we've got pupils at the moment who finishing off, they're in MYP 5, they're going to be completing the MYP this year, and they're studying Japanese alongside their English as well.
I feel so. I have one language and that's it. And for that reason, I made sure that my children have Chinese, but some of these children coming through with 3 or 4 languages is quite amazing. We have pretty much reached the end, Wayne, and thank you so much. And it's nice to meet you. We haven't met in real life, but then I hope that we will do so very soon. I did prime you, but we sometimes ask an experienced educator such as yourself, or even maybe just from a parent perspective, if there's one book that you could recommend for some of our parents to pick up and read, what book would that be?
You're following your prompt. I did give it some thought, and I'm reading a number of different things at the moment. But something that I thought would be a good piece of advice from myself is something that I'm considering rereading. I certainly haven't read it recently. Is a book called Third Culture Kids. The experience of growing up among worlds, and something that I read when just after I moved to China. But thinking about it again now at the moment, not only as a parent with a child who's approaching the teenage years, approaching difficult times, and he's in secondary school with us, but also thinking about generally as a parent and as an educator, the experiences that everyone's gone through in the last few months, and those that are living overseas, or those that aren't living overseas but are maybe from mixed backgrounds. That a book like Third Culture Kids, it gives some really good examples, some stories and things within it that actually are great for the children themselves as well. I'm not sure my own son would certainly pick up the book and read it from cover to cover, but there would certainly be some aspects of that book that I think would be intriguing for parents to fully appreciate and understand what the children are going through. And I think certainly at the moment, with all the restrictions on international travel and things, it might be even more poignant.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't read it myself, but I've heard lots about it, understand the concept. So we'll put the link below. And thank you so much for joining us. As I say, very informative, and I hope to meet you soon. And thank you to everyone who's been watching today. If you'd like to leave a comment, question for Wayne or Malvern College Hong Kong in general, we would definitely answer it even after the live broadcast has ended. So thank you once again. And I've been Ruth Benny with Top Schools, and we'll see you next time for Head Talk. Good afternoon.